What's up, everybody? It's Leo and Josh back again with another episode of 713 Football. This is actually our first pregame live stream ever, right? So, man, let's get right into this, man. This is a season-defining game. You know what I mean? Straight up. Straight up. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You know, going down 0-3 is really, really tough to come back from it. You know, it doesn't really happen that much, you know. And we are in a situation where, you know, we're going into a volatile, you know, stadium, and a stadium where we knocked their quarterback out controversially last year. And, you know, there's bad blood between both teams. Josh, man, what do you think about this game? And is there anything that you are looking forward to?
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. It's taken like 3 years, but this is like the first like balls to the wall game for D'Amico, where it's like regular season this earlier in the season. This is like a defining thing of like, all right, are we going to continue that ascent that we've done the last couple of years, where we were pushing, trying to break through, or are we going to fall back to kind of mediocrity? And this is kind of a big turning point because first division game, we've had two games where it's been tough. It hasn't been the way we want. Defense has played well enough probably in both those games. Offense hasn't pulled its weight, right? What is the adjustments? We always hear about the swarm mentality. All right, how does that transition to the coaches? How does that transition to the quarterback? We talked about the offense finally getting that mentality. We haven't seen it yet. Can they finally show it against a team that's going to really come out there for blood with a brand new head coach, new energy, new physicality, just new everything? And can we match that energy? Can we match that level of intensity?
Yeah, and I know that the defense will bring it, right? Like I'm confident that the defense will match it. But again, like let's talk a little bit about the last game and why we lost. You know, even though it was like like they barely won the game, obviously, but I mean, when you look at some of the stats, it's kind of astonishing that it was that close of a game. And I think, you know, I see, you know, some criticism of our defense, which, you know, I understand everybody, you know, gets criticized. But when your offense, well, when another team holds the ball for 15 more minutes than you, right? When you're 2 for 9 on third downs and all this stuff, like you know, it's really hard for a defense to win, to be able to win the game like that. And they were put in, you know, bad position after bad position after bad position. And I think the defense is playing fine, you know, honestly. Is, you know, are we struggling against the run at times? Yeah. But I think that it hasn't really been big enough to where, like, we don't have a chance to win the game. Josh, man, what do you think about that? And I know that, you know, they kind of run some. Obviously, Liam Cohen was just in Tampa. You know, they have a little bit more explosive running back in 18 and Tootin, right? And so what do you think about, you know, do you think we're going to be able to stop the run any better than we were last week? Do you think we make adjustments at all?
I mean, it's poetic in some way, and it's kind of really telling. It's going to come down to kind of our DTs, D line kind of establishing inside, but really it's going to come down to those linebackers. The linebackers had a really rough game against the run last week, and I think it was just kind of a slog where physically they were just getting beaten down. They just lost. They didn't really play with that downfield tilt really much of the game at all, and they had moments where they had that stretch. Kind of at the beginning, they weren't playing well. Then they had a stretch where they got strung together a bunch of stops, and they swung back around and then started to fall off a little bit as the offense continued to struggle to possess the ball and kind of keep them fresh, right? So I think when you tie all that in, I think the defense is in position to kind of take a step back and kind of readjust and kind of has that mentality where they can come out and stop the players. But the question is, will they? And the fact that you made a great point, and it's the thing that's kind of been flying around my head. We just dealt with like a rookie OC that was able to find a way to do that to us. And from the place that Cohen had built, basically his previous employment, he was able to train all those guys up in his scheme. They took that, they're starting up. Well, it's no longer a rookie OC anymore. We're now going against the grand master of their scheme, right? So we're going against him. We're going to have to step up. Etienne's been so damn explosive, like you talked about. The Bengals were in a similar situation where offensively they knew they couldn't really function at a high level with Burrow going out and still found a way to win. Can we kind of have that similar mentality, even though we have our quarterback out there and we have everything? Can we have that kind of bunker mentality where we're going to come up and reestablish the defense as the identity in a way that they're really in a situation where they have to play with zero room for error, right? Absolute zero. And we saw it last week, back and forth where the last drive they were able to let the running back just kind of just take the ball down the field against them. Can we kind of step up and say, there's a pridefulness? And I think there is, right, with the defense. The question is, will the offense do enough to allow the defense to even have a chance to play like that? Or are they just going to be physically beat up? One thing I know you probably want to talk about is, like, are they going to maybe play more bigger sets on defense? Are they going to maybe play less nickel if they come out and start playing as physically as they've shown Jacksonville? Are they going to play less nickel? We've played the most nickel that we've played in the entire D'Amico Ryans era this year. Is there going to be a shift kind of not away from that, but kind of integrating bigger bodies since we have guys like EJ Speed? We have a healthy Christian Harris to kind of maybe pair with Toa. But, I mean, there's a lot more to go into with that. But I think that's kind of be one of the questions. What is the adjustment from D'Amico?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that, in between the 20s, I understand the whole nickel thing, right? Because essentially they're saying Jalen Petrie is a linebacker. But the only thing I really kind of really disagreed with was when we stayed in nickel on the goal line. I think like 2 times in like critical moments, and we gave up rushing touchdowns on both of those plays. And, both, the strong safety and Jalen Petrie, the nickelback and the strong safety, had to pick up, blocks from linemen, and I think that, that's kind of a little bit, I think that coaches get a lot of flack for like just, in terms of like being called bad coaches when they lose. I think that's something that's kind of thrown around a lot. But that is a literal choice, the proverbial saying, that is a choice, right? It's a choice to ask C.J. Gardner-Johnson to get blocked by a tackle and do something about, and act like that is a good choice on the goal line. It's another choice to ask Jalen Petrie to run into a damn guard, a pulling guard and knife in the backfield and, make a play. To me, you're asking these guys to do an extreme amount of like things, like that's kind of really, really asking a lot of guys that are like 200 pounds, 210 pounds, maybe, to take on like a 300-pound moving object, I think that he has to kind of adjust his scheme or his ideas of personnel. I understand wanting to be speed like the faster team, but to ask like Jalen Petrie to make a play on the goal line, he's gonna have to, against a pulling guard, he's gonna have to do some Troy Polamalu stuff. He's gonna have to literally do some Hall of Fame level maneuvering to get in the backfield and make his speed advantage greater than the advantage of the power of an offensive lineman. So to me, man, honestly, I think that's something that needs to kind of change. You know what I mean? Now, honestly, maybe like if it's like a 4th down or a 3rd down and you have a little bit of space, maybe, but I don't think that was really
right.
a thing when I was watching the game.
Yeah,
personally. And
to me, I think that's a small part of it, right? The packaging and everything. In reality, DT's got punked out there last game. They have to be this. They have to be the ones, and that's the crazy part. We're not investing a ton of it on a ton in terms of DT, so that has to be the push where they can kind of elevate above what they're getting paid. Rankins has to play better against the run, blah, 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 right? Linebackers have to play more like what Tampa's linebackers played last week, where they were flying down. They were undermanned at times. They were just handling their business, right? We have to do that in order to make up for it. And you even saw D'Amico, you always talk about D'Amico choosing ways to lose, right? Like, this is a game where he has to go into that toolbox a little quicker because usually he waits to the playoffs to really get deep in that. But you did see at times, like, it was getting so bad. He was coming out with 3. I think it was when the Tampa was backed up close to their own end zone, and they were just starting off a drive. He came out with 3 DTs. It was like a 5-man front, 3 DTs, 2 defensive ends. And really was like, we're just not going to give up a run play here. And they were able to kind of, so maybe there's some, adjustments like that, different things like that. So I don't know. I think we got a super chat though.
Yeah. Yeah, I just seen it, man. Shout out to Texan, man, one of our biggest supporters on YouTube, man. Well, our biggest supporter on YouTube. So let me read this. Welcome back, fellas. It's not going to be easy, but I guarantee that it'll be worth it. They have to be diligent in putting in the work. There is moments when CJ has pockets that are so clean. It's incredible. Last year I had never seen a clean pocket. Yeah, man. Thank you again for the $50 chat. I think that's the biggest one we've ever gotten, bro. Let's read what else he wrote. We ain't finished. It's never going to be over. I noticed that when D'Amico decides and has trust in our defense, he has some crazy packages lined up. I could tell by last week on how he was moving around, moving people around. Don't be mad at it just yet. Yeah, no, I know. You know, I know D'Amico is like he's. To me, he's for sure a top 3 defensive mind in the NFL. It's just some of the choices he makes on the goal line to me are a little bit iffy. But at the same time, it's like, I mean, shit, he's put it between a rock and a hard place because, like we just said, the DTs are kind of just mid, you know, especially against the run. And then, you know, we're talking about, I mean, you know, the third linebacker in our situation is always really like iffy anyway. So I can understand why you would want to put Petrie on the field, you know, no matter what. But it's just kind of you're asking a lot of it because it's like at the end of the day, you're basically saying we have to take off one of our best players on defense, which is I guess would be Gardner Johnson and Petrie, right? To put a linebacker on, it's gonna be one of them to come off. So that's I get why he's doing that, man. You know. But let's read this. You got.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and you tied it in. I mean, the fact that we even have to talk about DTs and linebackers, the main reason we're having to talk about this, I mean, because if the offense had done anything out there, like, it would have been good enough to win the last 2 games, right? If the offense had been any kind of consistent, the fact that we're having to be so tough on D'Amico to start off the year where usually you get that grace period to build up your defense and kind of figure out your personnel and kind of figure out exactly what kind of package you like, especially when you bring in guys like EJ Speed, who I think is a guy that they could fold in more, he's like a different kind of cat with the length he gives you and the size. He's the biggest linebacker we've had in the D'Amico Ryans era in terms of like physicality and size and all that shit. So the fact that we're having to do that, and then Brandon made a great comment about Rankins. Like Rankins, I'm saying he has to do better against the run, but that's not what he's ever been good at, right? He's solid in it, but here's the thing that I screamed over and over again, and it's what we've seen this year, and I can kind of completely trace it back to this one player and his kind of step back just because of injury, and maybe he'll get better throughout the year. It's Foley Fatukasi. Like last year, we were a mid defense against the run with him off the field. The second he came on the field last year, and it's crazy that this player, it shows you the thirst we had for a nose tackle. We were like top 2 or 3, and I know Leo's tired of hearing me talk about Foley Fatukasi because we talked about it so many times, but it's just like, it's frustrating, and the complimentary football has to come back again, and we can't be just abusing this defense with an offense that's like, oh, we're just gonna hold on and we're gonna pretend like we got freaking Trent Dilfer out there, and the defense has to be the damn Ravens back. So I'm positive for today. I think they'll find a way. They have to. It's survival. It's no longer like it would be nice to win. It's absolute survival now. But you know, it's put up or shut up, and we'll eventually get to the offense, and that's where like the real difficult conversations are. But defensively, it's like tweaks here, guys playing up to the scheme and their responsibilities and playing more aggressive and just doing what they've done previously. So it's less of a concern. But when we get to the offense, that's where the more difficult conversations will be. And we already started talking about it with CJ and the clean pockets, but we're going to touch on it in a little bit.
Yeah. I agree, and it just goes back to what I'll kind of talk a little bit about what Brandon said, like the whole rankings thing. I mean, like, listen, like we D'Amico is okay with having undersized guys, especially in at defensive tackle, which is something that when he was coming from San Francisco, I didn't really expect him to have. Like, now I understand like Armstead is like a big, tall, long arm guy. You know what I mean? But also like he's not like a traditional one technique, right? Like he's not a he's not a nose tackle, right? For lack of better words, right? So I understood that we might not have a traditional nose, right? But to go out there with guys that are almost barely 300 pounds is kind of like, that's kind of pushing it to me. And I think that, again, like, can we find ways to stop the run? Yes. Is that part of the reason why we invested so much at DB, because we want to feel comfortable stacking the box and asking these guys to win their one-on-one matchups? Yes, right? But at the same time, and we could just kind of go right into the offense, right? It just ties right back into the offensive struggles, because the way that this defense has been built since D'Amico has been here, and it's been crazy that the defense has been as good overall as it has been, but this defense is built to play with the lead. This defense is built to rush the passer. Are we really good again? And here's another thing. Thank God for Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter. I don't know how I almost forgot his name right there, but both of our edge rushers, man, they set the edge so well, and they force everything inside, which I think is a big advantage for D'Amico. So because he understands where the weakness is. Everybody understands where the weakness is. The other team does, and we do as well, right? And that's only possible because of both of our edge rushers. They're good against the run, especially Anderson, right? So, but again, it's just like over and over and over these body blows, like from like, running between the tackles. I looked at it. I don't think Bucky Irvin had a run over 10 yards. He might have only had one run over 10 yards.
Yeah, it was death by 1,000 cuts. It's 1,000 paper cuts,
But that's it's like that's the issue, is that over and over again these plays just kind of end up, and then what happens is, like, next thing you know, your defense is on the field for an 8-minute drive, 9-minute drive. And it's just kind of one of those things that we have always talked about, Josh, off the record especially, is that when is a team going to be willing to really just run their head against the wall in the middle of a defense? And it seems now that because of how all these defenses are playing such wide alignments on the front, now it's like it's happening now. So
yeah, we're here, and it's because we saw what happened with the Eagles last year, right? Mm-hmm. And then we got a cool little teaser. We got a cool tie-in between the Eagles and not cool actually, but it's kind of a telling tie-in between the Eagles offense and the Texans offense. But that's what it is. I mean, we saw that last year. We saw it over and over. We saw it against the Chiefs in the playoffs. Eventually, they just decided, we're just going to move the ball down the field. We're never going to throw outside. We're just going to just drown you out in the middle of the field over and over again. I mean, that's been our kryptonite. But the only way to avoid that is the offense that's complementary. Otherwise, the way this defense, if you're asking this defense to be like those Ravens and those Bucs teams and all those other teams, it's almost impossible for the personnel to hold up throughout a season and ask you to do it over and over again, because it's just not how they're built. Like, this is not how Caserio envisioned it. This is not how D'Amico envisioned it. This is not how the potty type, explosive, like, you only many explosive plays the guys have in their body throughout a game and throughout a season. You can't ask them to do it over and over again and just kind of absorb all the hits that the offensive side of the ball should be delivering, right? I just heard a great quote earlier today or yesterday about Mike Tomlin talking about Trent Richardson, and this kind of, we can tie this into the run game. Like, he was Ryan Clark went to Mike Tomlin after the Browns drafted Trent Richardson, right? And he said, man, that's going to be a problem in division. And he says, no, and I may mess this up, but I think I got it right. Like, he came to him and Tomlin just turned around just very stoically. He said, man, he's used to guys quitting hitting him after a while. There's those are kids hitting him. Now he's gonna go into grown men hitting you, and it's gonna be over and over and over again. And there's not gonna be, because he doesn't deliver the blow. And right now, like Trent Richardson, our offense isn't delivering the blow yet. So that's kind of where we're at offensively, and why the complementary aspect is so damn important.
Yeah, let's hit some of these comments real quick. Can't get INTs when the other team is deciding to run the ball. Exactly. Texan. Shout out to, hey, listen, another thing too, man. Texan is a member. If you guys want to be members, man, make sure you hit the membership button. As you can see, if you become a member, you get access to extra emojis, and you get cool little things by your name when you type in the chat. And it's only like $2 a month, I think. I can't remember the cheapest one we have, but if you want to support the channel, that's the easiest way to do it, man. So yeah, let's check out what Texans says. There's times when they need to rotate EJ Speed and Christian Harris, and then there's the same thing. Yeah, man. I mean, I think so. I think that they're just kind of wanting to see where Christian Harris is physically. Now, he made some great plays last week. A couple of them when he knifed in the backfield. Unfortunately, I believe that it was a face mask penalty, but he showed the explosiveness to get in the backfield and make a play. I think as the year goes on, I think that he will play more and more snaps, which is also that was a bonehead play. He literally did, he literally did.
Right.
But let's go back into the offense, man. Listen, I think perfect segue, guys that need to play more, and unfortunately, we have a couple injuries at receiver that are kind of going to force this. But Higgins and we could honestly move into Kaylee as well, right? Higgins and Noel haven't played at all, basically, right? And
Higgins has played a lot, but Noel hasn't. Yeah. Right.
Well, okay, Higgins hasn't gotten any kind of
he hasn't gotten the actual attention.
Share.
Right. And Noel hasn't played barely.
Essentially, man, but like when you look at their explosive play rate and all that, when they're targeted and when they touch the ball, it's pretty much astronomical, right? Jaden Higgins took like a 25-yard spider 2 wide banana flat route type thing and turned it upfield and made plays. He caught a intermediate pass against the Rams. Obviously he was one of my favorite players in the draft, and the fact that we got him in the second round was great to me. And Noel, Noel was great in the pre-draft process also. Now let's talk a little bit about Jalen Noel. Probably as of right now in the league, probably one of the best returner in the NFL right now, particularly punt returner. Now, the simple question is, why isn't he playing on offense? And with our offense struggling and CJ struggling as much as he is, why aren't there any, design plays to them, like screens? We aren't running any RPOs. And I know that was something in training camp. Everybody was like, oh, we're finally running RPOs, which we already were running RPOs. But Josh, man, do you think that with this injury, do you think that there will be how do you say it? Do you think that there will be more opportunity? Do you think that the Texans will actually use these guys and put them in positions to get easy targets for CJ so that he could get back in the rhythm,
I think the first guy that's going to benefit from kind of how everything's shaken out is Kirk coming back, right? I think that's the main thing we're going to see. And, I mean, the stats are there. Like, he's abused that slot position, and so one thing that he's done consistently is attack the middle of the field, attack the slot position when it's been there. The problem is when you're playing Watson before, it's like that's a non-factor there. Like there's him, there's Hutchinson, and none of those guys give you big playability. That's the whole point of bringing a Kirk in. Like, he was 75. Was it? Let's see. He's third highest in the NFL, 56.9%. When targeting the short area, 0-9. So like Kirk's gonna step right in. But I think the biggest thing that you see in terms of like getting those layup throws, and it's something that the biggest fault, how do I say this? Just the biggest way that Kaylee's fallen short so far as a rookie, and the way he's just shown himself as being green over and over again. He just hasn't set up CJ with easy throws where the like almost brain dead plays. Like Sean Payton talked about this. Like, you could have the best quarterback out there, but even when he had Drew Brees or even you saw it with Bo Nix, like high percent. You only want like 10 or 15%, or at most. Like, that's even high at a certain point. You want like 5 throws, 6 throws where you really ask your quarterback to be a superhero. We're not giving those easy throws. We ran 2 screens last game. Like, one was a big play, the other one was screwed up because the population was bad to the ball. There was pre-snap they didn't realize. a guy was coming, and that's fine. That's 2 plays, 50%, and then you just stop them there. And then you come out with the sets where everything is condensed. There has to be adjustments where I understand the condensing is to help in the run game and to try to break plays where you're getting bigger bodies on their secondary and you're kind of causing everything to kind of condense so you can kind of get around the edge. The problem is right now we don't have the running backs to really break plays off. Like the one big rush play we had has been argued whether or not it was they actually just gave it to us, right? So like if we're looking at it that way, and I think Chubb is good in that first, second gear, but you kind of have to really be, attentive to what our skill set is right now. And right now we have guys that we aren't taking advantage of with Noel's ability to attack downfield. We have no vertical elements to the offense outside of Nico. And shit, I mean, that one stat I was talking about with the Eagles and us, like, they have a run game, we don't. But both teams are, like, bottom of the level in terms of, like, guys that are leading their team on receiving yards. Like, we have 77 as the leader. They're around 70 for their leading receiver. The problem is they can lean back on that run game. We can't, so that makes it even worse. And that's when you have a Nico and you're not doing everything humanly possible like the Rams did last week or 2 weeks ago with Puka, finding ways to get to him the ball. That's just kind of where I think there has to be, and it has to be like such a high emphasis on easy throws, early off, often attacking the middle short areas of the field. Really, Stroud loves those outside the numbers throws that are just uncontested, schemed up, and you just running consistently. And Ed Ingram had a great game, right? So maybe him coming back. I think Jake Andrews might be back in this game. I haven't seen the injury reports. Maybe we can now reestablish that run game in between tackles. We can kind of move off of kind of some of the issues we had with Lake and Tomlinson last week. And that's kind of what we have to do, because that is their one weakness. If we're taking it back to the Jags and moving forward to this matchup, they do have a weakness in between the tackles. And if they're going to play like guys like Armstead who are high levered, you can kind of get under them and kind of lean on them inside. And you can kind of stay away from their big edges the way they have with Josh Hines, Allen, and Trayvon Walker,
Well, I'll say this, man, and we could kind of go back to, talking a little bit about Kaylee, minimal play action. Here's the thing. I think, I don't know how many play action attempts we've had, but it's been pretty much, I'm pretty sure bottom 5.
Yeah, top. I think it's bottom 3.
Yeah, I think so. It might be bottom 2. But anyway,
right.
It's been very minimal. Now, here's the thing. I agree, the run threat or the lack of our the lack of being effective on the ground is an issue. In the condensed sets, it's not ideal. But when you couple that with the such minimal play action attempts, because as we all know, you can have a successful play action game without, being able to run the ball effectively. I mean, CJ Stroud's rookie year, we did that a lot. We literally did. So it's about making the teams think. The problem is that I think that when we run all these condensed sets and you're bringing the defense in closer, and you're also, you're not running the ball well, and on top of that, you're not running any screens, you're not running any RPOs or anything to get the ball out really quickly, and then on top of that, you're not running any play action, man. That's just a recipe for disaster unless you have Kurt Warner, Tom Brady, Joe Burrow, all the elite processors, the historic guys in terms of diagnosing defenses and getting the ball out the hands fast. We're not able to lean on our quarterback right now without that stuff, right? There needs to be more layups. The offense needs to be simpler for CJ to get his rhythm back, his confidence back, so that he can go back to being the top quarterback that we all know. And then on top of that, let's be honest here. I mean, if you're not comfortable with Noel and Higgins and all these guys, running their routes and being really guys that deserve scheme targets down the field, then just give them the ball in space.
Right. I mean that's the thing. It's not a mystery what works. We saw it in the preseason when Kaylee was doing it with Davis Mills, right? you can take a lot of that stuff over. And I think Texan, he just blessed us with another $50 super chat. He said, nobody has this guy on the radar, but in our system, we need a power back. That's one person they're ignoring, although he's blowing people up in special team. It's British Brooks. He needs to be part of the 3-back trio. I agree a little bit, but dude, we're missing a whole nother guy. The guy that was a 1,000-yard back for us a couple years ago. His name's Damian frickin' Pierce, right? Like, we didn't play him last week. I think people are kind of moving past him a little bit, but we didn't play him last week because we were playing against freaking Vita Vea in the wall of Tampa, right? In terms of inside the tackles. It didn't make sense matchup-wise. I think he's still a guy that they should maybe go back to. I think British Brooks, the fact that he's on the roster already because of the special team stuff, hell yeah, find some creative ways to get him the ball in the space, get him up the middle as a power back. Shit, use him as a wildcat quarterback if you want to. You can do a lot of funky stuff when you got a big dude. I love using power backs as wildcat guys. I've saw it with Taysom Hill over and over again. He's got enough speed to kind of be a threat there. There's maybe some funky different things. Like, Kaylee talks about being so fluid as a matchup guy. Like, you look across what the issues are. Like, you talked about the play action. The RPO is so freaking low. When you're talking about those layups, it's not mystery. The best OCs are high up on that list in terms of easy access throws to the quarterback. It's not hard. There's that, and there's the run game. Right now, the run game, it hung in. It wasn't the run blocking. I'll say this. Run blocking wasn't terrible last game, right? They just didn't. They weren't able to be consistent with it. Like, they didn't get completely blown off. It wasn't completely, knocked on their ass. I thought Ed Ingram played well. But we never had them looking behind them. We never had them flipping their hips and running. We didn't punt it. They went into single high and didn't give a damn. No one would have dared done that against Bobby Slowick last year. That's the now he's gone. That's fine. But Kaylee has to learn from this. Like, CJ Stroud's one superpower proven in the league over and over again. He is a top 5 quarterback when he faces single high. Damn near, and it's not number 5, right? Like, his numbers the last couple of years. That's why he struggled, and that's why he even mentioned it the first game against the Rams. He straight up said they played too high. It kind of screwed me up. It's like, dude, that's how people are going to do it. You got to create situations where his first reaction now and his mentality isn't, oh, I'm going to fix this by going to run. Yeah. Like, that should be so far down the list that the offensive coordinator is failing in that way, right? And then we didn't even mention, like, Woody Marks. Use him as a weapon. Like, Noel, you got the other vertical guy on the team, and Noel. Kirk is going to give you some vertical elements. I mean, the average depth of target is below with around 6 so far, so that's not great. I mean, there's so many different things, but in reality, like, these games have been so close. If we come out and fix, like, 1 or 2, like, if you get more vertical, it's going to help everything else out. If we're able to get a few more we're not asking them to fix everything, but you fix 1 or 2 things on offense, guess what? We probably win the next game. And because that's how the margin for error is right now. We're still playing such good football on defense, and the games are so close that it's right there. So we're not asking them to fix every damn thing at once, but there's got to be progress, and there's got to be growth. And he can't look like a damn rookie of all rookies OC. Like, he looks worse as a play caller now than he did in a preseason with how he's cycling stuff. And a lot of that has to do with CJ because CJ didn't play a lot in the preseason, so that's tied in too. And he was able to kind of just dictate things for Davis Mills, and teams don't play as much in the, there's different elements to that. But he needs to bring that similar plan that he had for Mills, bring it over to CJ, make everything quicker, make it so damn easy that there's no excuse not to just continuously move the ball and at least get 2 or 3 first downs every possession. I'm not saying you got to score, and it can be a Kaimi Fairbairn love fest. If we go out there and get 5 field goals and like one or 2 touchdowns, that's plenty.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, with how this defense is playing, yeah, that's a lot. And I'll say this too, man. You brought up Woody Marks, bro. Well, shit, you brought up a lot, but like Woody Marks, man, like, I mean, he has to. Well, okay, I'll start off by saying this. CJ's only touchdown this year, I think he's only thrown for 1 touchdown, right? It's only been 1, I think.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's right about there. Was against single high cover 3 or whatever, I mean, he still can do that. Well, he's good at deciphering all that, but man, those split high safeties just give him a lot of trouble. And I was one of the people that said, my whole thing about Caley was he going to be able to find a way to exploit the two high safeties, right? And through 2 weeks, well, definitely week 1. Week 2 was just like a catastrophe offensively, right? But week 1, I mean, they came out in looks that were familiar to us the previous year, and we didn't punish them for it. And to me, that was pretty astonishing, and I don't know how to feel about that. But let's talk about Woody Marks, man. He needs to be playing more. He needs to be getting targets. He needs to almost damn near, I want to say, be a featured back on this team right now. The one target he got, or the one or two targets, well, the one that wasn't a screen pass last game, he took it for 20 yards, 20, 30, 40 yards, something like that. Really simple, easy throw for CJ, man. Another layup, right? Now was that designed? Did he have to get backside to his reads? Yeah, but still, the fact that CJ made that play lets you know that he can make the play. It's not like he just can't do it, right? So, but when you have Dare on the field, let's just be real. There is no reason. We can't say pass pro anymore. He's coming off of probably one of the worst pass protection performances as a running back that we have ever seen in the NFL, like for sure for Texans fans. That was ass, right? I mean, and he's not a threat in any way running the football and catching the football, right? And now ball security is an issue. In the most critical moments of this time when he got targeted and got the ball, he fumbled. So listen, I mean, at this point, Woody Marks has to be on the field. And again, we got Higgins. We got Nico, who's a great screen player, a great guy with the ball in his hands in space. We got Noel. You got Kirk. You got Woody Marks. I think that there needs to be 5 to 10, quick, misdirection screen passes to any one of these. Hell, don't even have to be misdirection. Just get the ball out. Just get the ball out of their hands, out of his hands. Get him an easy completion. Make bump his completion percentage up. You know what I'm saying? Get him in a rhythm, bro. Get him some easy throws. Make the defense play tight to the line of scrimmage, man. And then just, and make them and force them into single high, or force them to play press man and give up something potentially big deep as well. Because listen, these guys are explosive. We have explosive receivers. If you have Noel, Christian Kirk, and Nico on the field at the same time, one of those guys is going to be able to get vertical. You know what I mean? So that's that, man. We have another super chat for Texan, man. You've been so kind today, bro. First of all, appreciate you. I wish we had. Listen, I'm still learning this. I wish I had do we have a hand clap, man?
I'll read it while you're looking for it. CJ has not been good. It's okay that we acknowledge it. He has to make the throws, and he has to escape some of those easy pressure situations when he's getting sacked and cannot run backwards. You're right. Absolutely. No doubt. And the biggest issue we had against Tampa was they had no fear of us attacking over. They were blitzing like crazy. They cranked it up in the fourth quarter. Like they had no they were playing single high. It should tell us everything. The fact that they felt comfortable going into single high and had no stress. I think you're at that point you made about personnel and getting more explosiveness on the field. You can't tell me if you got Noel out there and Kirk and Nico, something's not going to come open. Because last week we couldn't uncover versus their DBs. Their DBs were more athletic than our receivers out there, and you saw it over and over again. Like within the scheme, I don't even know if Bobby Slowa could have uncovered the way those packages were going. I don't think he would ever run out packages like that, consistently. But that's, beyond the point, right? We have to find situations where the run game uncovers for the receivers, the quick game. Like we saw it work. Why not see if the screen works with Noel? Like he's a great punt returner. Why not use him like Dante Hall, or use him like, if you're not going to use him as just use him as a gadget player at least, like year one, right? This is try it to see, because we don't have anything else. And you had one guard play well, one guy didn't. So how are we going to fix that? By running the ball, getting the ball out quick, not asking them to be in situations where they can kind of pin their ears back on 3rd and long, where they've got to worry about a bunch of twists and stunts and all that. If you want teams to not run a bunch of fancy shit, hit them in the mouth. Like, it's not that complicated, right? And I think a couple other things, like Harrison Bryant was a good player. I'm looking through my notes a little bit. We could see more of him in this game. He did a good job attacking and blocking up front. So he's probably that number 2 tight end with all the injuries that we've had. That was a good move to kind of pick him up. And it just really comes down to, like, we talked about all this about Kaylee this and Kaylee that. It all comes back to CJ Stroud, right? Because he's the one kind of executing everything. He's got to be decisive. He's got to be accurate in windows. Like, he had windows against the Tampa, and he didn't hit them multiple times. Like, he panicked under pressure. Like, when people put that on tape, guess what? It's not going to go away. Yeah. Like, they're going to turn around and do more and more and more. Like, I'm surprised we didn't see more of it after the Green Bay game last year. Like, I'm surprised teams didn't just go. The only reason they didn't is because Bobby was willing to attack vertically and outside of Nico and max protect. Right.
And then you didn't know, like there's so much, and we're not, I've been a Bobby. I was someone that basically wasn't blaming Bobby for everything, especially last year, right?
Yeah.
And you see that now. You see that it wasn't all him, obviously, right? The thing about Bobby and the thing about why, maybe some of these looks weren't shown all the time as much as they are right now is because, like you said, he would come out and he ran the ball even when it didn't work. You know what I mean? So they had to set up in ways to where you can't, like you said, you can't sit up here and run a double A gap, right? You can't run double A gap if you're going to come out and 2 tight ends and run the damn ball. You just can't. And I think that that's part of the reason why a lot of these things. And now again, it's something that you had said, right? Something that you had said that last year is that, okay, CJ is struggling, diagnosing things, right? Now we're gonna give him even more pressure to call the protections. Now it's all on him. There is no center at fault anymore. Right. And last week, he got fooled over and over and over again, and again, it's like, bro, there was plays where they put 7 people on the line of scrimmage. There wasn't even a defender over the slot. And it's literally like we're basically in empty protection or at most sometimes we come out with the 5 linemen and a running back in the backfield against 6 or 7 people, man. Nobody motions back in to help or at least chip, maybe. You know what I mean? And so, again, we talk about process and we talk about all this stuff. So if you're going to play like that, that's fine. It's okay. Listen, you could go 5 wide against an all-out blitz if you know where you're going with the football. It can work, right? But the thing is that when they show that, and this is the most troubling thing about CJ, it's even more troubling than – the lack of getting the ball out, right? Fast, right? They are showing you there's 7 people at the line of scrimmage at times, 6 people at the line of scrimmage at times with the slot, with the slot press, with the slot defender press up against the line. So is he blitzing? Is he not blitzing, right? What does he do? He literally drops back like he expects it to be blocked sometimes. Yeah. To me, that's that is one of the worst. That is a terrible place to be because it's not like Todd Bowles was was he disguising the blitzes? Was he disguising where people are coming from? Yes. But at the same time, he showed you pre-snap that he was willing to possibly send 7 people. So that means that you have to play with a sense of urgency when the ball is snapped. And I did not see that. And that is the most troubling thing because now it literally is if this is who CJ Stroud is, this team is going to have to come down to really running the football and play action in. And as of right now, we don't have a coordinator that has shown that he is willing to play like that, to play the way and again, and we should start wrapping it up, but we don't have a coordinator that is willing to mask the deficiencies of the quarterback, which it seems like possibly what's going on a little bit more than people thought it was, man. So that's kind of where Josh, do you have a game prediction, man, before we close out, or what do you think?
Yeah, man. I mean, something we could talk about for days on days on end, right? Like, who was it? We had one from someone that was popping up. Or was it 35? Let's see.
35.
You know, I'm trying to find out where it went. But anyway, yeah, for me, we've kind of been stuck in that, like, just below 20 kind of purgatory. I'm going to be an optimist. I think we're going to probably win this game. I'll say 20. It could be like a 23-20 game, but I think they're going to find another way. Man, the special teams bailed us out last game, and I think to ask them to keep coming back, there just has to be kind of level up. I'll say 25 to 20 to 25, 26 to 21. I'll say there's like going to be a ton of field goals in this game. We're going to get some touchdowns, but there's going to be a ton of field goals, and it's just going to come down to CJ executing in those tight window situations. And will they take a step back where you now have Jake Andrews back? I think this is going to be kind of the underrated storyline. How does that change? Are they going to give more to him? Because I think that mental overload was a big thing, and you saw it. A lot of times guys can separate the pre-snap and post-snap stress of it. He's not able to do that right now. He's getting that pre-snap overload, and post-snap you're seeing him miss easy throws that are open. I'm not going to say they're easy, but window throws in the middle, the touchdown to Nico he had. Like, there's a bunch of different, even the ball placement of Nico on the left side when they went on empty. If the ball had been in a better place, we wouldn't even had to get stopped for a bunch of run game. You know, there's so many things to get to, but I think the defense kind of knows exactly who they're facing this week. Like, they kind of got to build up a little bit. I think they'll be able to step up. Yeah, 26-21 Texans.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick the Texans to win this game, man. Because this is a game where if we lose, I'm beginning to give up on, the coaching staff and the quarterback completely. You know what I mean? I'm beginning to be like, damn, bro, because this is a must-win game. You know what I mean? I think we're gonna come out and win by 10. I'm gonna say 27-17. I think we dominate them. I think Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter dominate this game, and I think we'll see one of the rookies. I mean, last time we seen, it was Tank Dell's breakout game was week 3. We were 0-2 against the Jags. Hopefully, we see Higgins or Noel have a breakout game this week. And first of all, I want to say, man, thank you to Texan specifically, man, for all the super chats, bro. We really appreciate your support, and all the other people that came through watching us, man. We got a lot more planned for y'all. I'm getting a new computer soon, so the edits should be better, and everything, all the quality will be going up. And man, listen, we appreciate y'all, and we're gonna bounce, man. This is 713 Football. Make sure y'all like, sub, and share. Join the membership program if you're not, and you want to support local Houston Texans fan podcast, where we actually are not afraid to say how we truly feel. You know what I mean? And it's from the bottom of our heart, man. We want the team to do better ultimately, but we can't lie about what we're saying. And I can't lie, man. I was dejected about the loss last week, so I can't hide it, man. So make sure y'all like, share, and sub, and we'll be back soon.